Ooh, it won't be long now, DC fans. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And a very, very warm Wednesday. Welcome to the DC Universe Daily. On today's show, just prior to James Gunn's incoming huge announcements on his DC Universe plan, I'm going to make a huge prediction about one of the things he's going to tell you. I believe he's doing a John Kent movie and not a Kal-El, the last son of Superman movie. That's what I believe. Now, the OG Superman could be part of this story as he is John Kent's father, and of course Lois Lane will be there, but I think maybe his principal character is John Kent and not Clark Kent. That's my prediction. That's why I believe he's casting a younger actor. Now, there's still rumours that J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman is still happening. So this is weird because ever since that movie's been announced, J.J. and Ta-Nehisi haven't really spoken about it. They've been really, really quiet, and since David Zaslav has become CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, he's cancelled a hell of a lot of J.J. Abrams' content over on HBO Max. So it doesn't really add up, but according to Access Media, the Black Superman movie is still in development, and maybe James Gunn will have an update on it when he gives us his announcement on his DC Universe plans. Of course, we're not going to get everything. We're just going to get a little bit of an announcement, because if he tells you everything, he can't keep you on the hook and give you out of context teasers. But yeah, I believe we're getting a John Kent Superboy movie, maybe even a John Kent Superman movie, but I don't believe he's focusing on Clark Kent. So I don't know if the Black Superman movie is happening still, but if it is, it would make sense that you wouldn't have a black Clark Kent and then have Henry Cavill's white Clark Kent, or recast Clark Kent, you know, again, when you're doing, you know, a black version of Superman. It will be done. I believe that this Black Clark Kent movie is still happening. Nothing's actually changed at WB or DC, and James Gunn is just the front man to distract you geeks and you nerds because you love him. And you will basically drink anything he puts in your mouth. This is the truth. That's why he's there. So if this Black J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie is still happening, nothing's changed at the studio, and it's literally still the same people like Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada running things. So it'll be very, very interesting. They could have no choice but to allow this Black Superman, Black Clark Kent movie to actually happen, because maybe all the contracts are written up and it's an impossibility to bin it. I don't know how it works. We'll have to wait and see. But it won't be long till James Gunn's exciting announcements, and we'll see what he has to say about everything. So what are we now? The 9th? The 10th? So we're on a Wednesday. I mean, we may get something by the end of this week, more likely by the end of next week. I think that's the timetable. Basically, everyone, hold on to your skirts, boys and girls. It's going to be a very exciting but bumpy ride. And whatever he announces, you know it's going to be controversial, because we live in a controversial world. Everything's controversial these days. Even if I blow my nose on a YouTube video, that would be fucking cruel to the tree that was cut down to make the fucking tissue, right? This is the bloody world we live in, you know, so yeah. But that is my theory, that we're getting a John Kent Superboy or Superman movie, but we're not actually getting a Kal-El, last son of Krypton, in DC Universe. Now, of course, the Black Superman could be part of DC Universe. He, you know, maybe the Kal-El in DC Universe is black. Now, I have hinted to you that I believe that the casting for the new Superman will be inclusive. either Latino or black. I've had this kind of suspicion. So when I see Chris Wong Svensson on Twitter posting all these, you know, really attractive young white boys as Superman, I have to laugh. It's like when people do the Bond kind of, who's going to be the next Bond? And I see all these, you know, buff white guys. But I think the next Bond's probably going to be Indian, Asian, or a black guy. This is the kind of world we live in right now, and that's what's going to happen. That is the realities for the situation for both James Bond, and here, with DC Universe Daily, we're talking about Superman especially. So, I can live with anything they do as long as they make great characterizations and, you know, great movies. I would have been behind the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker if her characterization was interesting. If she was the flawed character she's been since '63. But they didn't do that. Because Jodie is a woman, she had to be flawless. That's how progressives see minorities and women. And that's the problem with the industry today. So, if they're still doing a black Superman movie, good luck to them. Get it right. Give me a great fucking movie, right? If James Gunn is doing a John Kent Superboy or Superman movie instead of Kal-El, great. But make a great fucking movie and take a deep dive into it. Do something, say something, entertain us, wow us. This is last chance saloons for DC and WB. They've been fucking over DC for years. And now it's the time to deliver. So whether we're getting Ta-Nehisi Coates, Superman and J.J. Abrams Superman as a black man, whether we get on top of that a John Kent Superman character, yeah, that's cool, but do it well. That's all I'm going to say. You know, I'm not going to sit here and start ranting and raving if they're still doing Black Clark Kent. Of course it's problematic. Of course it's utterly problematic, and people will be divided about it. And those people who love the idea will be calling the other half of the people racist for not loving the idea. This is the world we live in today. I don't believe if you don't want a Black Clark Kent, I don't believe you're a bigot or a racist, but I do believe every single human being has secret bigotry in their heads that they don't reveal. Even the ones who say, I'm not racist, I love the LGBTQ community, I love this, I love that, I don't hate anything, I love all DC movies ever been, I love all the versions of the Doctor, all this crap, right? Nobody believes any of that shit. Nobody is flawless. Gen Z want to create a flawless society, but we're not flawless. We all have an element of bigotry in our heads. Maybe you don't like redheads. That's an element of bigotry, right? But you don't talk about it because you don't want to upset people with red hair. Maybe you do have some racist bigotry in your head, or, you know, maybe you are a misogynist and a sexist, but you don't talk about it because you don't want to be labelled that, and you don't want to hurt women, right? You don't want to be disrespectful if you think a woman's place is a certain thing, right? You don't talk about that. So you can have those views and you can bury them in your head, and that's okay. As long as when you meet women, you treat them with the respect, you know, they deserve on an individual basis, right? But the world we live in today, you know, people put themselves forward as this Joan of Arc character who kind of is perfect and has no bigotry whatsoever. But in the world we live in, since humanity was created, right? How did that happen? And I'm not going to get into a debate about that for fuck's sake, right? But, you know, we've all got levels of bigotry in our heads, right? But the intelligent people don't talk about it. And when I talk about things that I think are problematic within the industry, I talk about them in a certain way, and I try and take the element of toxicity, and I try and be non-offensive about certain things. Because even though, like every single human being, I have a level of bigotry in my head that I don't talk about, right? I do believe that, you know, a certain bunch of people run Hollywood and they only employ their own people. I don't think that's bigotry. That's through learning who runs the entertainment industry and how they only employ themselves. And when it's award season, they only award themselves. That's the industry we live in. They're the facts of the industry. It's all about nepotism. It is a family business, and that's what it is. And when they talk about representation and inclusion, you know, Joe Bloggs from Brixton, who may happen to be a black guy or a black girl, is never getting behind those golden gates of Hollywood if they don't have that certain DNA, and they're the facts. So the people who are kind of going to be very angry if this is definitely still happening, that we're getting a black Clark Kent, it doesn't make you racist. You just don't believe that Clark Kent should be a black man because Clark Kent has always been a white man. And it's even worse because we have two great black versions of the character in comics, in DC Comics, in Val Zod and President Superman. A couple of years ago, again, around the same time as the Black Clark Kent movie, they announced a Val Zod movie for HBO Max. We still don't know what's happening with that project. They haven't officially cancelled it. They haven't spoken about it since they announced it. Exactly like the Black Clark Kent movie from Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams. So nobody really knows if either of those projects are actually happening. So we could, according to Access Media, could still be getting the Black Superman movie. We don't know. But very soon, we do know one thing, that James Gunn is going to be making these announcements. And they're going to be very, you know, shit, hit the fan announcements. They're not going to, as I say, it's not going to be the whole thing. It's just going to be a little bit. I think we'll get a mini slate. Maybe we'll get a mini slate. I think definitely the Superman situation, one way or the other, will be clarified in the sense of what type of Superman movie James Gunn is doing. I believe we'll get a title for the Superman movie, and we'll know at least that. And we may even have a release date for that movie. I think that's one thing we're going to know about. Hopefully, it's the Superman movie, and that's quite important to me as a Superman fan. And yeah, I do believe we're getting John Kent, and we're not getting Kal-El from James Gunn. That's the movie he's writing, I believe. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. I'm always very comfortable with being wrong, but with casting a younger Superman, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? It makes sense, doesn't it, that this would be John Kent. Otherwise, why would you be trying to... Now, to be fair, he's never kind of said what kind of age group he's looking to recast. But considering Henry Cavill looks more 28 to 33 rather than his actual age, 37, 38, you know, he could have easily kept on playing Superman for the next, 5 years at least. So he's going to have to cast a very young man to disperse the myth that Henry Cavill was removed as Superman for more toxic reasons. Of course, I do have the suspicion that Toby Emmerich is still running things and that nothing's changed. And actually, if this Black Clark Kent movie is still in development, it proves that nothing has actually changed at WB and DC. And I think the funniest thing I heard this week was Greg Berlanti, the guy who brought you the Arrowverse, getting a contract extension at WB. I think it's hilarious. He's another progressive, and we saw that in his work within Arrowverse as well. He's the one developing the new Jon Stewart HBO Max Green Lantern show. Originally, it was supposed to be something else, and I know that Mark Guggenheim, who was involved in that project, isn't happy that they changed what they were doing with that show. He's not talking about it, but he certainly said a couple of things that says maybe he's not too happy with his old friend, Greg Berlanti. I'd like to look into it and get more information about that. I'd like to interview Mark Guggenheim on this channel, but I can't afford to pay you. So unless you're going to be nice and do some charity, we can't talk, Mark. I can't interview anyone on this channel because I'm not going to pay you. Why should I? You should come here for your own pleasure, for the pleasure of the fans. But you won't do that because we live in a capitalist fucking world. So, hey, let's continue with what we were talking about. And so, yeah. How do I... Look, as I said on the top of the show, earlier on in the video, I said, I'm not like, oh, Black Clark Kent, oh, John Kent. Even if we go with the bisexual John Kent from the, the most recent graphic novel, I'm not going to be, oh, I'm angry. But as I said earlier, just give us great characterizations. Give us great movies. Give us great content. And I'm fine with it. I would have been fine with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, because I never had an issue with her being a woman, if they just did her great. They gave her a great characterization. But they didn't. They never do, because progressives within their inclusion, you know, always just say, will the, you know, the people they're including, they push them in front of the camera and they go, look, you're being seen now, everyone. We don't actually have to give them the same characterizations and the same due diligence as we do the white people, because all you want to do is be seen. Now, I recently watched Star Trek Voyager. Now, they have got a character called Chakotay. Now, the character is a Native American, and we see him flash back, you know, and he's resenting his father as a kid, trying to teach him the Native American ways. And it's a beautifully told story. And it reminded me as a kid, my mum trying to, you know, educate me in the Greek Cypriot ways, and, you know, making me go to Greek school after doing a full day of English school. And I resented and pushed back on that, just like Chakotay was doing as a kid. Now, that's representation, that's inclusion. But the progressives, the extremists in Hollywood today, they just want to push what they're representing in front of you, say, isn't it good to be seen, and push them away from the camera again, like they're doing minorities in the LGBTQ community a fucking favour. It's a fucking insult, everyone, because they don't believe in representation and inclusion. The extreme left don't actually believe in anything. They're just, you know, they're just into division. So there's great representation and there's bad representation and inclusion. And what's going on within the industry that's destroying the industry right now is bad inclusion, bad representation. I just said on Twitter, they should present every award ceremony from Washington, D.C., the White House, because they're so obsessed with they're so obsessed with politics, aren't they? They're so fucking insane. You know, they've ruined a beautiful industry, a beautiful art form, via extremist politics. And it's sad and it's a shame. So, is the Black Superman movie happening? Isn't it happening? Don't ask me. I don't have a clue. But even though JJ and Tanashi are not talking about it, maybe they're waiting for James Gunn to make a statement on what's happening with the future of DC films until they respond to that. So it's going to be interesting. You know, maybe James Gunn officially says, yep, that Black Superman movie is happening, as well as my Superman movie. I'm doing John Kent, JJ and Tanashi are doing Clark Kent. And that could be all part of the announcement. So until he makes that announcement, because I think it's going to be a very, very interesting announcement. As I say, it's a shit hits the fans announcement. And I'm very excited to get my teeth as a YouTuber into that and bring that to you, tell you what I think. And I think we'll definitely go live on that day. It's going to be a very, very cool day. I hope it's good. I hope it's good announcements that makes everyone happy. But we don't live in a kind of announcement-y kind of world that makes everyone happy. Everyone's mad on social media about something, and that's very sad. I'm grateful that I've got my versions of DC films that I love in my collection. I'm very content at 50 years old about that. I want more great stuff to put in my collection, but if I don't, I'll still die happy, because I still won as a fan of entertainment and stories, because when I was growing up, they did things the right way in terms of what we saw on the screen. Maybe the way they made them was still cruel and, you know, toxic and all of that, but I don't know about that. I'm not part of that process. I'm not the fucking police. I'm not the fucking moral police. So I don't need to worry about that. I can't police every single person to act properly. But give me something special that I'm watching, and that's the most important thing. We've been through this before. And so, yeah, I don't think James Gunn is doing Kal-El. I don't think that's what he's going to present to us in this movie. And I believe, yes, he is doing John Kent. And I'd love you to tell me in the comments down below what you think about that. I think it certainly would be different. And I mean, being different for different sake isn't always a good thing. But I think here it could be a very, very exciting thing. But without us getting these announcements, which we'll get very, very soon, I think finally we'll know some things. We'll have some kind of schedule as well. Maybe James Gunn can tell us what we're getting like next year, which I don't think is very much, by the way, because I don't see how we can get anything from DC Universe next year. I mean, we're in January now, they'd have to rush something out. Maybe by the end of 2023 they could do something. I don't know. So these announcements are important, but it's important to understand you're not going to get everything here. So, yeah. But that's what I think. That's what I think. I think we're getting John Kent, and that's why they're casting a young actor in the role. And as I say, it's always important to me to hear what you have to say. Even if I don't respond, I read all the comments. I don't get many comments anyway. I don't get many views. But when people do comment, I may not reply or like them. Doesn't mean I don't like them, like in emotion, or I don't read them. It just means I read them, I was about to like them, and then the phone rang, or something happened, or some news broke, or I got a headache or something, right? So you're always, you know, I'm always taking notice in what you've got to say as fans, because as a YouTuber, you're the most important element. I'm not the important element, you are. Because if even the amount of you who come in don't come in, there's nothing here. I'm talking to myself. I mean, I like talking to myself. I love the sound of my own voice. I could talk about DC, Doctor Who, and entertainment in general for fucking ever to myself without nobody watching, or even one person watching is a result for me. Now, DC, since 2013, has divided fans. But you look at the Man of Steel movie. I think it's a fabulously made and written movie, and I love it. Now, I've discussed this before, that Superman killing Zod doesn't really deeply upset me. But I can see why it upset the hardcore Superman fans, because not only does he kill Zod, he breaks his neck so violently. It's just so bad because, and this is the reason the movie didn't make, I think, the near on $1 billion it would have made without that moment. It's that moment in that film that triggers people and tells people, you know, people say, we're not going to go back and watch this film again and again. We were excited about this Superman film. It's well directed. It looks great. The action, so much more action than we got in Superman Returns. This is great. This is what we fucking asked for, right? A slightly older Lois Lane. That's exactly what we asked for, right? And what we get here, in the kind of similarity to the Batman, is a Clark Kent who's Superman, or dressed like Superman, for most of the movie, even though he's not really Superman yet. This is more Superman Begins. But I believe if Superman doesn't kill Zod in Man of Steel, that movie gets better reviews. I believe it would have got a better Rotten Tomato score, and it would have made more money. It's whether you can defend that moment. You could say, well, the character had no choice. No, within the script, he had no choice. But the guy writing that moment, David Goyer, didn't have to write it. Because what Goyer is saying is that this is Superman of a real world. This is a gritty real world Superman. And in the real world, Superman would kill. Well, if you're going to do that, why bother calling him Superman? You might as well create a new character. You know, that's the problem here. Because, look, most people going to a cinema to watch Superman don't want to see Superman violently kill General Zod. Zod could have easily been sucked into the Phantom Zone like the rest of them if he was geographically situated in the movie at the right place. You could have still had an end battle. You could have had Superman, as well as the Kryptonians, all being sucked in to the Phantom Zone, and it could have been a big cliffhanger at the end of the movie. And in the second movie, like I've had the idea myself, is to have, you know, a Phantom Zone Man of Steel sequel with all of them stuck in there. That would have been loads of fun. It would have been something different as well, and it would have helped the character of Superman. If Superman kills Zod, and then at the end of the movie when he stands with his mother over his father's headstone, he could have said, I killed once. I'll never do that again. I never want to feel that way again. I've said this so many times on this channel. Because if you're going to have Superman killing, at least have him learning something. Now, if Superman says that, and you can tell he actually regrets it in this movie, then I think this film gets better reviews. This film makes more money. Henry Cavill's still Superman, and the Snyderverse would have been completed. And I think that's what ultimately hurt Man of Steel. Man of Steel is a wonderfully uplifting, compelling Superman movie. You've got that moment when young Clark says, what do you expect me to do, let them die? And Jonathan Kent says, maybe. Now, you and I, the intelligent, common sense, sane people, understand that Jonathan is just trying to protect his son. He didn't really want to let those kids die, and secretly he's proud of his son for doing it. But this is no different to what John Schneider's Jonathan Kent does in Smallville, over protecting Clark, asking, he's asking the question, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, Clark, did anyone see you, son? I remember a scene in Smallville like that. So he's not criticising his son for doing it, but when you have a scene where young Clark goes, what did you expect me to do? Let them die. And Jonathan Kent, Pa Kent, the OG Pa Kent says, maybe. Now, I understand what they're trying to do here, but again, it isn't a good look for this character. This also hurt the reviews, which in turn hurt the box office, because I love Man of Steel. Then you look at BVS again. Again, many hot takes for this character of Batman. He's branding people. He's killing people. He's doing stuff that isn't, again, synonymous with a lot of Batman graphic novels. I'm sure it's there. Maybe there are brandings in some kind of comic book story. I don't know them all. You'll get in the comments and let me know. But again, if he's not, for example, let's say a few people do die inadvertently through Batman's actions in BVS, but he doesn't brand people. That movie makes more money and is more loved, gets a higher Rotten Tomatoes score and gets better reviews. There's ways of slightly, taking your hot takes down in that movie. But Snyder was trying to tell a story about a bitter Batman. An old and bitter Batman, but he doesn't really give many reasons why he's this bitter. For example, if we actually saw the Joker murder Robin, I think this would have worked to give some logical narrative to why Batman is so bitter and twisted. Now, what Snyder's saying in this movie is he's old, he's bitter, he's cynical, and that's it. I'm not going to give you any other reasons. But if you see Robin getting murdered there, so if you just take the level of controversy down in BVS, that movie makes more money. And again, Snyder gets to tell his universe. Snyder and Goya went too deep with Man of Steel and then Snyder with BVS. And that's why there's problems. There's certain things you can't do with certain existing characters, and you've got to understand that. And once you don't understand that, you lose the understanding of the audience. And, the audience don't want to follow you anywhere anymore. Now, Zack has got his fans and people who will fight his corner and say, there's nothing wrong with Superman killing. There's nothing wrong with Batman killing. What about Keaton? He killed some people inadvertently, blah, 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 right? Christian Bale's Batman. Let's Ra's al Ghul die, right? So, yeah, you can have these arguments, but ultimately, you don't want to be in a situation where there's arguments, where you have to defend your favourite DC movies or your favourite DC directors. As directors, they should understand the characters, the pre-existing characters, the iconic characters they're working on, and say, maybe Superman shouldn't break Zod's neck. Maybe there's another way around this, right? Or at least if he kills him, he admits that he didn't like the way it made him feel and he never wants to feel that way again. And because I feel this way, and it made me feel this way, I will never kill again. Great! It works! Killing him in that element works. But Superman never really learns anything from killing Zod. In fact, he goes into the next scene where he literally launches a fucking, satellite at the General Swanwick, right? And then he and Lois and the Daily Planet bods share a joke, and that's it. Superman learns nothing from killing Zod. So, do you understand why people may be a little bit angry? As I say, it doesn't bother me. I don't think Superman should kill, but hey, it was a great movie, and on the most part, I sat in the cinema and I went back again and again and again, and I fucking loved it. I love Man of Steel, and I love BVS, and I love the Snyder Cut, warts and all. I'm okay with these things. I'm trying to educate you why some people didn't like them, and all it would have taken was Snyder and Goya pulling back a few of the things that they did. it wouldn't have compromised the story they were trying to tell. They went too deep with what they were trying to do, and it upset people. And there lies the problem. But ultimately, the biggest problem is that WB wanted Nolan, and they got Snyder, ultimately. And that's why they started messing with his vision once people were really, really unhappy. And this is where we are now. But that's the past. We're very shortly going to find out DC's future with James Gunn's announcement. Is it going to be a brave, exciting new world, or more of the same? I have a theory on it. You know what that theory is. I don't think anything has changed at DC, but very soon we're going to find out. One way or the other. This has been Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. See you again soon. I love doing this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. See you next time.